Hey y'all, Rowan here. So today, before we get into it, let me just apologize for being missing in action. You may not have noticed, but I certainly have. It's been like at least a week since my last upload, and I try to upload multiple times a week. So I'm sorry for that. Had some stuff in my personal life came up, and I had to remind myself that ultimately this channel is something that I do for fun. It's not my job. It's something that is supposed to bring me joy. So if things are going on in my personal life that mean that I cannot put the focus and energy on this, I need to put the focus and energy on my personal life instead. That's a-okay. This is not my job. This is something I do for fun. And that's a thing that I have to remind myself with basically all of my hobbies. It's okay to tap out of them. It is okay to pursue something else for a little while. I am not obligated to do all the things I enjoy all the time. So now that I've had a bit of a diary entry, let's get into it. Today we're going to be doing the tag that is sweeping the YouTubes. I've been meaning to do this one, and I would have had this video up a week ago if it weren't for the stuff. So let's just go ahead and do the Taromance tropes tag. Taromance, romance tropes with tarot, which was created by Tarot Magpie. It is a 10-question prompt that goes through romance tropes that you assign a personified tarot deck to. So it kind of plays with the way we personify our relationships with our decks and our decks themselves. So let me stop blabbering and instead link you to her original video down below so that you can listen to, actually I'm saying her, but I don't remember what their pronouns are, so we're going to default to they, them for a little bit. So go watch Tarot Magpie's video, enjoy their explanation of the tag because they do a much better job of it than I could. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of all of the prompts. I'm just going to kind of go through them, okay? So to begin with, we have enemies to lovers. Let's talk some Draco Malfoy and Hermione Granger, if you're straight, or in my personal opinion, Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter. So my enemies to lovers is less of a singular deck and more of a system. I have 3 decks in my collection that adhere to this system, and that is one that I'm sure a lot of other people are going to use as their answer for this question: Marseille. So my 3 Marseille decks that I have are the Pocket Tarot of Marseille from Lo Scarabeo. I have the Jonasa House 7th edition, which I have edged finally in a beautiful burgundy to match the backs. This one's the weirdest of my Marseille decks, but I love it anyways, and now that I read it in the Marseille style, it's so much easier to read with. And then finally, the Gay Marseille by Charlie Claire Burgess. So the Marseille style was very not my thing at first because it was difficult to read with. And honestly, for one of the other prompts that we're going to talk about in this video, I'll get into how I started to enjoy Marseille, because it actually did not start with a Marseille deck. It started with a regular old Pip deck. But these 3 decks I read in the Marseille style all the time. And when I say I read them in the Marseille style, I don't mean that I'm well versed in Marseille by any means. I've never read a book on Marseille. All I know is that you're supposed to follow the eyes in the pictures, read the pictures for what they are and how they relate to the pictures around them. They're designed for large tableaus. They're meant to be read as a big spread rather than like a 1 or 2 card draw. So I've been reading Marseille like that and having so much more fun with it. I get better readings and I have a better time. I can also play around and make up stories that way. So I really enjoy these decks. A special shout out to the Jonasa House, because this is the deck that, even though it's not in the traditional Marseille style by any stretch of the imagination, because it's meant to be read in the Marseille style, it got me to watch some videos and come to understand how Marseille is intended to be worked with a little bit better. So that's my answer for enemies to lovers. Not the Jonasa house specifically, but Marseille as a system, because I was in love with this deck as soon as I saw it. So that is a little bit different. Let me put these away for a second. Hold on. While I do that, I'm going to talk through the next prompt, which is friends to lovers. This is like, it's my personal favorite of all of the tropes. Friends to lovers has always been the soft spot in my heart. It's the only way I've ever been able to establish romance relationships in my personal life. It's my favorite type of fan fiction or romance novel to read. When Harry Met Sally is my favorite romance film of all time. So yeah, friends, I guess When Harry Met Sally is a little bit of enemies and friends to lovers, which is what makes it so special. But anyways, yeah, friends to lovers. It's also a little bit of forced proximity, which we're going to get into later. I just really love When Harry Met Sally, okay? It's one of the best films of all time. Anyways, next one, friends to lovers. For this, I have to go with my Bianco Nero Tarot. So this deck is the deck that I learned tarot on for all intents and purposes. It is, hold on, I'm struggling with it because I trimmed mine and now it has sharp corners, and I don't want to get rid of the sharp corners because I think it looks sick as hell with sharp corners. But it does make it difficult to get in and out of the bag. So this deck was supportive. It was wonderful. It was the deck that taught me what I needed to know. It held my hand through all of it. And while the original prompt says that something special happened that made you and this deck bond in a romantic way, I don't necessarily have that experience with it so much as over time, I realized that my feelings for this deck had grown from simple enjoyment to passionate love. I realized that this deck could be leaned on for more than the bare bones basics, that I could turn to this deck for just about any kind of question, and it would support me. I could use it for spirit work. I could use it for ancestor work, which I guess is a type of spirit work. I could use it for romantic readings, readings for myself, readings for other people. I realized it was just always there for me in all of the ways that you could need a tarot deck to be there, and that it was fulfilling a special place in my heart. And so this is my friends to lovers deck. It's black and white. It's a Rider-Waite-Smith clone in a lot of ways, but every now and again it goes more Visconti. It's beautiful. I love it. And I don't know why there's reversals in here, so I'm just fixing that real quick before we move on. I don't shuffle in reversals on purpose, so this must have happened on accident while I wasn't paying attention, which is a thing. And normally I'd just kind of roll with it and let them come up where they may, but if I notice them, then I feel obligated to fix them. Like, I just believe that all of my actions have an eventual purpose in how this deck gets read, and I feel called to put them... I don't know why I'm justifying this to you. Shut up. So our next prompt is slow burn. One of my favorite fan fictions of all time is the ultimate slow burn. It's called Atlas, and I don't remember, it's a Star Trek fan fiction. I don't remember who wrote it. Also, Observations is another Star Trek fanfic that is a slow burn favorite of all time. Anyways, slow burn. My answer for this one is actually not going to be a tarot deck. This is a, well, I mean, it calls itself a tarot deck, but it's a liar. It's an oracle deck, and that is the Tantric Dakini. This deck, I, from the beginning, had feelings for, but it had to grow into itself, into the self that I needed it to be before we were able to really make it work. So this deck, I have trimmed, I have edged, I have done in-depth study of, I have worked with intuitively, I go to the guidebook even just for funsies sometimes, and because I have slowly but surely spent time with this tarot deck, or wannabe tarot deck, oracle deck, I have come to have a deep, intense passion for it. And it was never platonic, me and this deck. It was always a romantic thing. I always wanted to love this deck. But it took this deck growing up, and me growing into it, and us growing into each other, for it to finally work out. So that is the Tantric Dakini Oracle. This deck takes itself very seriously. I say that every time I bring it up, but I have to mention it because I take myself very seriously. And that reflection of self that I see in this deck, while also having a sick sense of humor, that really fits for me. All right, so next we have prompt number 4, which is a forced proximity deck, romance trope thing. So for this prompt, I should say, I have the Tattoo Tarot, Ink, and Intuition. This is what the backs look like. This deck was the first, honest to God, well, okay, so I had the Antique Anatomy before this one, but I used the Antique Anatomy for specific things at the time. And so this deck was the first pip deck in my collection that didn't have a strong purpose, I guess, that made me want to use it only for special things. This deck really helped me to practice tarot in an almost flashcard-like manner because there is so little symbolism on the pips, and because it is stylistically slightly Marseille influenced. This deck was wonderful for teaching myself rote tarot, and because of that time that I spent with it, it has a very special place in my heart and in my practice. This is a deck that I can use to read for other people, that I can use to read for myself. I can use it to tap into basically any type of energy to ask questions, whether that's specific spirit work, or if I'm trying to use it for, I don't even know, deity work, or if I'm trying to just ask source questions, like in a very vague way, what's the universe got to tell me? This deck is wonderful for that. So that's the Tattoo Tarot, Ink, and Intuition. Studying it is what helped me to, like using it to, not studying this deck, but using this deck to study tarot over the course of several months brought me closer to it. And so the next one that I want to talk about is prompt number 5, Opposites Attract. This is a deck that I never thought I would have in my collection because the art style is very much so not my thing. And that is the Erotic Tarot. This is a not safe for work deck, so skip ahead a little bit if you don't want to view breasticles. This deck is, I don't know what you call this. I want to say vector art, but I know it's not quite that. But this deck is very simple, very minimalist line drawings of people that look like they were made using Adobe programs. I'm not trying to roast it when I say that. This deck is just very simple and straightforward in its pips, and I didn't think I would like pips. I did not think that I would like this art style, but when I saw it in person, something clicked, and I wanted it, and I got it, and when I used it, something clicked, and I love it. And so now I use this. This deck has a very sassy energy, quite frankly. I don't know if that's because I use this specifically for my work with Aphrodite, and Aphrodite energy is very sassy, or if it is because this deck itself is quite sassy, but I think it's the deck, I think it's both, okay? ¿Por qué no las dos? And I really never thought that this would be something that I would love, and here we are in love, me and this deck. So that is the Erotic Tarot. The next prompt is Blind Date. So I actually have 2 for this because while the prompt did specifically request a deck that you had a blind date with, like you bought on impulse, didn't do any research, and it worked out great, I also want to talk about a deck that I went on a terrible blind date with. So we're going to start there. And I've ranted about this before. The Hush Tarot. Oh my god. Me and this deck, we're better off friends, quite frankly. The Hush Tarot I purchased on a whim after seeing it in a Dawn Michelle video, and then going to the magic shop and finding it in person and going, oh my gosh, it's kismet, it's synchronicity, I have to have it. But this deck, if I had done my research, I would have known that this deck does not adhere to the Rider-Waite-Smith system. It sort of does its own thing. And while I also would have known that it's a curated art deck that includes pieces that were not made for tarot. Oh, I didn't have my light on. I don't know how much that helps, but let me go ahead and have it on it anyway. I would have known that this deck would be difficult for me to work with, quite frankly. And while it does sort of push the boundaries of tarot, and I think when I finally get back to it, I'll probably like it a lot more than I did the first round, because I'll be, like, when next fall comes around, I'll be better at reading intuitively and with the artwork rather than against it. But right now me and this deck have so much problems that oh, this card! Oh! I might make this deck an Oracle deck just so I can get rid of this Lover's card, which does not belong in this deck whatsoever. I'll just put it in a little picture frame and put it on my wall instead, because this is a beautiful card, but it does not belong in this deck. So yeah, I've really contemplated turning this into an Oracle, but I'm going to give it a year of sitting, and I'm going to wait until we get around to autumn, and then I'm going to work with it again, and then see how I feel. So that's a blind date that went poorly. I should have done my research. Then I would have known that this was not the deck for me at that time. And I could have not purchased it, saved myself $25, or even better, I could have purchased a deck that I actually wanted instead. So too bad, so sad. Sorry, I'm fighting over here with my box of cards. So the next prompt that we have is, oh, wait, no, I wasn't done with blind date. My next one is a good blind date. So this is a recent acquisition, and I used to have this bag for this deck, which is, this is a deck that I am going to be throwing in the trash soon. I'm going to see if I want to do an art project with it, but I will probably just throw it away. I don't even want to give it away because I don't think it's a good tarot deck for a beginner to learn on. Long story, but I've talked about it in other videos, so if you want to hear my thoughts on that, you can go browse my channel and listen to me some more. But I am now using this bag for a brand new deck that I saw in one YouTube video, and I didn't even finish the YouTube video. I stopped it because I didn't want the surprise spoiled, and I said I want that deck. I added it to my Amazon wish list. I saw it in person at a magic shop. I came back and got it next paycheck. And that is the Zerner Farber Tarot. The Zerner Farber Tarot. This is the new edition with the matte gilded edges and the Trump size cards. So these are smaller than standard tarot size. Why is my lighting so bad? These are so cute. I love this deck. It really was an instant, whoops, I just put out my candles. It really was an instant connection for us. Oh, and there's the Fool right on top. This deck is so cute with things like that. But I got this deck because I knew that I would love it, and I was absolutely right. I knew that I would, like, from the first time I saw it, I said, I've got the potential to have some major chemistry with that deck. I added it to my wish list. I did not do my research. I went out and bought it within a couple weeks of just wanting it quietly on the sidelines, and it's been wonderful since then. It's a collage, textile collage deck, so it uses, I don't know if this is digital or analog, but it does use textiles as some of the texture. So it's a very, it's got good eye feel. Like mouth feel, but for your eyeballs. It's got really good eye feel. And so I thoroughly enjoy this deck. I'm very glad that I semi-impulse purchased it. I really did buy it in the midst of my personal turmoil, so this was a I like to call them planned impulse purchases, things that I know will bring me joy that I can purchase when I am, like, things that I know that I want, that I'm not going to buy right now, but when I'm in the throes of wanting to indulge in bad shopping habits, I can turn to these items rather than just picking up the first thing that falls into my path. So it's like a planned impulse purchase. I like this devil card quite a bit. Can you see that? I set it aside to purchase later, and I've been very happy with it ever since. Me and this deck, we're still getting to know each other, but I feel like we've got an instant chemistry, and because of its size, I will be using this as a bag deck, so this will be coming with me. I would absolutely use this to do readings for other people. It's petite, and it's sturdy. I love it. I'm so happy to have it. That is the Zerner Farber Tarot. So next up, we have Second Chance decks. Now, the original prompt for this was a deck that you gave a second chance and now it's working out. I don't really like a deck that you rehomed. I don't have any that I got rid of or wanted to get rid of and then brought back into my collection. So we're going to do it a little bit differently, okay? We are going to do a deck that gave me a second chance. How about that? So for me, that is the Zeke's Arcana Tarot. This was a love at first sight kind of deck. I saw it on Lisa Pepez's channel and immediately knew I had to have it. This could have also gone in the blind date category because I purchased it after weeks of wanting while doing very little Actually, I did research on this one. Let me not lie. I did look at the full deck before I committed to buying it. But the first time I owned this deck, I riffle shuffled the hell out of it, and between the intensity of my riffle and a quirk of the deck itself, this embossing on the back creates a quasi crease right along the center of it, and if you riffle shuffle it too hard, too much, possibly even at all, eventually all of the cards crease right along that line. So I don't riffle shuffle this deck. I waterfall it and hand over hand it. So now I have purchased this deck twice. My original copy of it I gave away to my brother-in-law, and I don't know if he uses it or not, but he seems to appreciate that I gave it to him, and if nothing else, he's got a pretty little art deck now. But I only shuffle it like that now. And this is my second copy, so this deck is giving me a second chance. It's a Pips with Feeling kind of deck. It has this limited color palette of these bright pink, purple, teals. I love this deck so much. It's this surrealist pop art, Sailor Moon, Lisa Frank, Trolls energy kind of deck. It's also almost out of print, so it is out of print and there are some copies available for retail still, so I know that Tarot Stack has copies available. I believe that Julia A. Rich's website, Zeke's Lunchbox, still has copies available. So if you're interested in it, it is going to be difficult to get here soon, so it might be worth the indulging purchase if you are in a financial position where it's not ruinous to do so. I don't want to encourage buying it on impulse. I do want you to think about it long and hard before you commit. But if you've been thinking about it already, this might be your sign. This deck gave me a second chance, and it, I'm sure, will warm your little heart as well, provided you do not riffle shuffle it. So our next prompt is Unrequited Love. This is a deck or a system that you love. You want it to love you back, but it just doesn't work out. And for me, that is the tarot as color, not because like, me and this deck are friends, right? But we could never have a romantic relationship. This deck does not feel passionately for me at all. This deck is so busy being a monk, basically, that it has no time for romantic anything. So I fell in love with this celibate deck, and now I get to live a life with unrequited love. Because this deck is cold. It is unfeeling. I mean, that's not true. It feels things, but it doesn't feel things for you. It feels things for the universe. This deck is so in love with God that it doesn't know how to find love for a fellow human. Like, when I say this deck is a monk, I mean it. It'll give you the answers, but it's going to give you the answers in a way as if it'll never see you again, and it's not emotionally invested at all in your problems. Some people say the Barbara Walker is kind of like that. I wouldn't know. I don't have that deck. For me, it is this bad boy, the Tarot as Color by Ithel Calhoun. I'm pretty sure I'm saying her Colquhoun. Whoever this person is, they deserve more respect than me mispronouncing their name. So that's that on that. But it's this abstract paint splotch, beautiful, just boom colors kind of deck. It uses the Golden Dawn titles as keywords on the bottom of the cards. It's a quasi Golden Dawn Thoth system, but it does have some changes. You could use this as a Thoth deck if you wanted to. Open up, open up. Oh my goodness, the box is annoying. That's another thing that keeps it unrequited, is that trying to get into the deck, it feels like it does not want you unless you really want it. So that is tarot as color. Our next prompt, let me put this away. Our next prompt is Love Triangle. So this is 2 decks that are competing for a place in my collection. I'm going to keep both of these decks. Let me be clear here. This is a situation of I really think that the 3 of us can make something polyamorous work out. You feel me? And that is the Intuitive Night Goddess and the Rosebud Tarot. These are both mass market beauties that radiate divine feminine energy. I use both of them for various types of goddess work, and both of them are even collage style. See? So, allow me just a moment to get this to the point where I can show off both of these at once. These decks are very similar in energy. They're very similar in the way that they read. They both change a lot of the names of the courts and majors. So they're very similar to each other in a lot of ways. So oftentimes, which one I reach for is just a matter of whether it's nighttime or daytime, quite frankly. Whether or not I'm talking to the dark divine feminine or the light divine feminine. Whether or not I have a need for a staunch Rider-Waite-Smith clone or something that's a little bit more interpretive. Whether I want something that's a little bit more pippy or something that's a little bit more scenic. Like, these are the minute details that separate these decks from each other to me, because they're very similar in their energies and in their aesthetics, and in the way that I use them. So this is a love triangle. I just want these decks to... And they get along with each other, quite frankly. They do. I could use these in a reading to speak with multiple different aspects of goddess energy if I wanted to, and I would have a grand old time. Like, these decks are great. We have a little polycule going me in these decks, and I love it. I thoroughly enjoy both of these. I will not be getting rid of either of them, and I'm very glad that I bought them both. I actually even got them both close to each other. I got the Rosebud Tarot first, and then one of my very next gifts of tarot deck was the Intuitive Night Goddess, because I asked my mommy for it, and she bought it for me. Thanks, Mom. She doesn't watch my YouTube videos, but the thanks are there nonetheless. Our final prompt is Soulmate deck. And when I say final prompt, let me be clear. The original video had some discrepancy about what the actual order of the prompts was in the box down below, the top of it versus the bottom of it. Like, so the timestamps of the video are not the same as the order that she typed up the questions, the prompts in. So I don't know what the correct order is, but I don't think it really matters all that much. I'm sure Sylvie Tarot Magpie is not going to have their feelings hurt if I am a fool about ordering. And I wanted the Soulmate deck to be the last one. This is a deck where it was love at first sight. This is a deck where you've never had problems with it. You've always loved it. It's always been there for you. It does everything you need it to do, and it's just the one for you. And right now in my collection, that is the Star Power Tarot. This deck is everything that I want in a deck, even though it is not something... When I first saw it online, I didn't think it was the one for me, but the second I got it in my hands, I realized that yes, in fact it is. This deck is glossy, so it's super... like water resistant, so you could take this out and use this at like a bar or something to do readings for people. It really resonates with people who are of my generation. The artwork really speaks to the people that I tend to do readings for, so it's one that I can use for myself or for others. It has a unique take on the tarot that pushes my boundaries of understanding the tarot, which is something I really respect in a tarot deck. But it also has beautiful art that I like to look at just for the sake of looking at it. It falls back on the Rider-Waite-Smith system, but it also brings its own interpretations to the cards. There's nothing I don't like about this deck. It has gilding. I love a deck that comes with gilding that does not hurt my hands, and this gilding has never cut my hands up. It's a winner for me, and the shuffle is immaculate. I'm probably going to put my candles out again, but let me just show you. Oh, sick as hell. So that is my choice for my Soulmate deck, the Star Power Tarot by Charlie Quintero of Six Sad Girls. Boink. And with that, we reach the end of the Terror Romance tag. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Once again, I am sorry for disappearing for a while. That's going to happen sometimes. That's just the nature of doing this for funsies. As a reminder, I did make an oracle deck that is mixed media. Mixed Metaphor is the name of it. Whoop, 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 whoop. But I just have to plug my own oracle deck real quick. I will link it down below. If you like collage decks, if you like mixed media, this is not the final copy. The final copy does not have my handwriting on it, so it's much easier to read. And the card art is a little bit better cropped. But this deck is my baby, my brainchild, my sweet, sweet offspring. And if you are even a little bit interested in it, please go check out the video that I made about it. I will link that down below. I talk through all of the cards. And I am working on the guidebook for it. So that will be, I'll make another video. Oh, or at the very least, I'll make a community post announcing the guidebook when I'm done with it so that you can go check that out. If that's what's keeping you from pulling the trigger on this bad boy, then I totally understand, but that will be out soon. This deck is really designed to help you create connections between ideas that you may have associated with each other before, or may view as opposites, or may not even understand their connections at all. This deck is really meant to sort of mimic the way we make connections when we learn early on in our lives and when we do certain mind-altering substances. It's not meant to be a mind-altering experience in that way. It's just meant to help you think about things in a new way, I guess, to change your perspective, to bring some new connections into your contemplations. So that's Mixed Metaphor, Mixed Media, my oracle deck. If you like my videos, please subscribe, or at the very least, go scroll through my channel and check out some of my other videos to see if I am to your taste actually legitimately for realsies. And I hope you're having an amazing day. Comment down below if you have done this video. I'm trying to keep up with the whole tag, but it's really popping off. So I first come, first serve. Get my attention. That's a joke. I'm going to do my best to watch all of them anyways. Thank you for hanging out. I said that already. Like, comment, subscribe. Fly me to the moon. Love you. Mwah. Bye.